Hey students, this is video for chapter 1.3 notes, so make sure you have this page, and we're continuing our study of the structure of the body, and today with this video we'll be looking at body positions, directional terms, and abdominal regions of the body. So first, let's look at how is the body positioned, a few different things here. The first one that's important is what is anatomical position? You know, when you're just standing there, you're standing there waiting for something, that's not necessarily anatomical position. There's a specific way you stand to be considered anatomical position, and we'll look at a picture of that in a minute, but that is basically standing erect, upright, with your face forward and your palms facing forward. So if you put your hands out to your arms out to your side and you face your palms out towards the front, that is considered anatomical position. So it's very important that you understand that, and also to remember that when you're looking at something in anatomical position, the rights and lefts are opposite. If you're talking about something that is supine, your first blank there, that means you're lying down and your face is up. So when you lay on your back, you're in a supine position. When you're laying on your front, face downward, that's called prone. Okay, the rest of this Roman numeral 1 here on this part of the page is the directional terms. So there's a bunch of them here, and we're just going to talk about them as we go. So directional terms, when you're looking at ventral or anterior, that refers to the front of the body. So I'm just going to go through them, and you can fill in your blanks, and then we'll look at some pictures. The dorsal or posterior portion refers to the back of the body. Think about a dorsal fin on a shark. It's on their back. So the ventral dorsal, those terms are used more with animals that are on all fours or are more parallel or horizontal to the ground. Anterior, posterior are used more for animals that are upright, like us. So you'll see more of the interior, posterior, but I left dorsal up here. That's just because it's a good picture to see a dorsal. Think about a dorsal fin of a shark. As I'm recording these, it's Shark Week right now on TV, so that's very appropriate. But that's the back. Okay, cephalad refers to towards the head, so above the waistline, and then caudal is talking about structures below the waistline. Superior means above, inferior means below. Think of if you have a job and the person who is your superior, that's the person who is your boss. They're above you. So like, you know, I have a boss. We all have bosses if we have jobs, and so those are our superiors. They can also be superior in age too. So I'm your superior because of my age. Lateral refers to the sides of the body, whereas medial refers to the middle. So when you put your hands on your hips or on your waist, you're putting your hands on your lateral sides, whereas the medial is towards the middle of your body. Distal refers to being away from the point of an origin. Proximal is nearest the point of an origin. These two terms relate more to appendages, your arms and legs. So if you think about your arm, the point of its origin is at your shoulder. So when you're talking about something away from the shoulder, that's distal to it. So your fingertips would be distal to your shoulder. They're away from that point of origin. Proximal is nearest the point of origin. So your shoulder bone would be proximal to your fingertips because it's closer to the point of origin. Ipsilateral is just talking about one side. So if you're just saying something is on the right side, that it's ipsilateral. Superficial is close to the surface, and deep is towards the interior. So I hope you noticed, with the exception of ipsilateral, all these terms have they come in pairs. They're opposites: above, below, to the side, to the middle, away from, nearest to, close to the surface, towards the interior. So most things are going to be one of the two there. So pause this if you haven't got all these blanks in. I'm going to go ahead and move on. And so here's a good picture of these terms. So here's a girl, and a girl, we're going to look at the front view of her, and this is the side view of this young man. So this front view, if we see the arrow pointing toward her middle, that's medial, but if it's going towards the outside, that's lateral. Superior is above, inferior is below. Proximal, you see a proximal line going towards the shoulder and also going towards the hip because this is towards the point of origin. Distal is away from, so it's pointing to the outside or going away from that. And then if we look at the side, we can see other angles, the posterior view, which is the back or dorsal, and then anterior or the front, the ventral part. Again, we see the superior and inferior. Proximal is going towards the point of origin, his hip here, and then distal is going away from. Notice they both are standing with their arms out and palms facing out towards the front. That's anatomical position. The rest of your notes is looking at abdominal regions. So we have these 6 areas. So the hypochondriac region, there's 2 of those, right and left, and those are the upper lateral regions beneath the rib. So if you'll feel your ribs right now, and right below that, on the lateral sides, that's your hypochondriac. So you have your right hypochondriac and left hypochondriac. In between those 2, right above your belly button, is the epigastric. So if you think of a tic-tac-toe board, the top 3 squares are your right and left hypochondriacs, and then your epigastric region. The middle 3 would be your lumbar is on the right and left side, and in between the lumbar would be your umbilical region. That's where your navel or umbilicus, or we call that the belly button, that's where that region is. And then the bottom 3 squares of a tic-tac-toe board would be your 2 inguinals or iliac regions, right and left, and below the belly button is your hypogastric. So hypo means below, epi means upon. So think of that above and below your belly buttons. And so here is a picture of what I was talking about. So here's your tic-tac-toe board, and so doctors can say, well, the portion of the small intestine in the umbilical region, then people would know they're talking about there. Or if the nurse is telling the doctor the right iliac region has some inflammation, then the doctor or the other nurse knows that that's the area, the region they're talking about. So by naming the body parts and keeping the same name, then no matter who you're talking to, then they will understand what you're talking about if you use these terms. So that's why we have these different labeled regions of the body. Okay, your turn now. These aren't in your notes, but they are in the book. So we can, and we're going to be referring, you'll see these different regions throughout the whole year. And if you understand the regions, you will be able to understand and remember blood vessels and other names that are usually have the same name if they're in that area. So for example, your abdominal aorta will be in the abdominal region. So by understanding the regions, that will help you later as we go through the year understand why some of the things are named the way that they are and help you remember where they are. So get these 2 sheets. They're like really small sheets, and you're going to put them on the very top of your page, and this is to the left of your 1.3 page of notes. So position them, tape them in, or glue them in at the top half of your book, and then underneath each picture you see there's numbers here. So you're just going to number your paper 1 through 28 on this diagram here, and then underneath this diagram you're going to number your paper 1 to 11 and just list the name of the region, and you'll be able to get this information. Either you can use the internet or use your textbook to name these regions. So when you're finished with that, then you are finished with this section of the notes from Chapter 1, 1.3.